Hello and welcome back to Versus. Some more Canadian Highlander. You love it, and so do I. And another person who loves the format, James. Hello.
Hello, hello. I do. That is accurate. I was very sad to not be there on Sunday this week. It was not a pleasant day for me. So fingers
No.
crossed.
Yeah, you were definitely missed this week.
Oh, that's not just to do with Henry's quality of recording. So
No, nothing to do with Henry.
okay.
Henry ran it with aplomb. Today we're going to be watching Matt against George. Now this is George's Paradox Academy list that he did bring to the finals that some of you may have watched. Don't think there are any changes to it, but the idea of this deck is to win with Solarian Academy and Paradox Engine. But there's loads of other combos in here as well. It's a pretty disgusting degenerate deck where George is going to be trying to pull his rock out in public once more. This is definitely becoming the villain deck of the meta right now, because the results that George is posting with this deck is pretty insane.
Yeah, it's also a bit. He's so reliable about always showing up with the same deck and showing up pretty much every week as well. So you just know there's a reasonable chance you'll get paired against him. So
Yes, there's a fear factor there that everybody seems to have at the moment, which is quite fun. Points wise, George is playing Tinker, Ancient Tomb, Mana Vault, Tolarian Academy, strangely, Soul Ring, and Urza Saga. And that's it. That's George's deck. Do you want to tell us about this winged wizard?
I would love to. So George might have, the local villain, but Nadu is probably generally considered one of the broader villains of Magic of the past,
Yep.
6 to 12 months, or probably one of the more busted mid-range cards that has yet to manage to avoid a point. But I'm not personally sure how long that'll last. But there's the combo, which involves 0 mana activated abilities, targeting a million creatures, making more creatures, drawing your whole deck without drawing your whole deck, and doing all kinds of crazy nonsense. But it's also a solid mid-range package here: Baraghoists and Atraxas, and just like good value creatures. So trying to combo off with Nadu, but also if that doesn't work, trying to beat down in a bit of a mid-range fashion if possible. Points for Matt are a couple of Moxen and Emerald and Pearl, and then one each on Natural Order, Urza Saga, Gifts Ungiven, and Strip Mine.
Lovely. We've missed a rather ridiculous start here from
Yeah,
George.
I just looked up from looking at Matt's deck list. I'm like, what the hell is this?
So that was a turn one Mox Diamond, Soul Ring, Tolarian Academy, Sahili.
Good lord.
But Matt has followed that up with a Mox of themselves and Survival of the Fittest. So we really do have some strong starts here.
This is an excellent example of high power Magic. This is why a lot of the reasons why people play this format. Although George noted to be missing a second land, so still not in a bad spot, mana wise. Obviously, not going to pretend he is, but that is a rough one.
It's
Maybe
also
just
worth noting right at the beginning that these two test their decks and play against each other a fair amount outside of competitions. So they know how each other's decks tick and how to play around them. So it should be an interesting matchup from that point of view.
Yeah, a lot of there's less kind of reactive cards, hate bear cards in Matt's deck, because there's so many slots dedicated to the combo and finding it and playing, cards like Nomads Encore, which, let's be honest, you just wouldn't ever play ever in a deck that didn't care about this. Things like Shuko. Well, I mean, some of the other ones could still fit. Bristly Bill is still a fine card, Sidecat Club. But the other, there is some cards and just kind of redundancy that do mean that there's maybe a bit less interaction format than a more traditional mid-range deck might have. So it'd be interesting what line he takes. He's just going for card advantage and trying to accelerate a bit here. Potentially Field of Dead's really a good one for the combo as well, but potentially noticing this lack of mana from George. Well, lack of mana is not the right phrase. Lack of land drop from George might be a way in which he can push the advantage.
Yeah. It is definitely more combo slanted than it is mid-range slanted.
Yes, definitely.
We have a Candelabra now as well. Lovely.
Yeah. And this academy is tapping for an absurd amount of mana at this stage.
And doing so
With-
twice.
Yeah, every non-creature artifact making 2 more artifacts, one of which can be sacked to draw cards, is nuts.
This can reduce this if you pay more than 2, right? Yes. So it goes to 1.
Yeah, just checking that the Forensic Agitator does make artifacts cost less, but they can't cost less than 1, I think is the... So if you was to choose X as 2 on the Candelabra, it would cost bloody hell, George. That's what I'm telling you. It would cost 1, but if you choose X as 1, it'd still be 1. So it's
Oh
helpful.
dear.
But this is busted. Let's be fair.
Welcome.
Not lacking much here.
Welcome to Canadian Highlander, a really fun format where your opponent can do this to you.
On turn 3, after missing a land drop. Oh dear. This is why everyone locally is scared of George's deck.
So we get to crack clues here just to draw, because mana's not a problem.
Nope, mana is totally fine.
So we're turning the servo.
Okay. Into a Mox Diamond. Which suggests coloured mana non-blue mana might be an issue.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah. So another servo here. It doesn't make a clue, sadly, but it does draw 5 cards, which is pretty good when you're untapping. I don't even want to know what you're untapping. You're untapping an absurd amount of things.
What?
That is a lot. Oh, for God's sake. I was like, oh, he's whipping. He's actually... Oh, no, there's a Wheel of Fortune.
Oh dear. That's so funny.
Oh, God.
I'm so glad that was the 5th of the cards that were revealed as well. I mean, even the Wisps were pretty good.
Yeah, oh, yeah, they just... Obviously, just a bunch of rituals that make more mana eventually is always fine to have here. So... If there'd just been 5 talismans or signets, this obviously would have been a little underwhelming. But 3 talismans into a wheel is absurd because it just makes so much more mana.
The thing is,
more cards.
they still untap everything and make a clue because of the Forensic Agitator, right? So you still get to keep drawing off them.
This is pretty busted start. To be fair.
Oh, I'm glad we got to see this.
I'm sure Matt's not glad we got to see this.
Yeah. Right after I've said that this is kind of the boogeyman of the meta.
Yeah, completely is.
I'm sure there are people watching going, maybe I should try this deck. This deck looks ridiculous. It is. It is pretty ridiculous.
Is he not? I feel like he's not even floating mana at this stage. Maybe he isn't. He's just casting all these and doesn't even need the extra mana. Why do all the maths when you know you've got infinite mana forever if you want to?
Yeah, I mean...
Can even make the land drop. Ancient Den, is Ancient Den? Yeah, it feels like a bit of a rubbish land drop. I'm sure you can find a better one. Oh, we're cracking clues before the wheel. Do we not have red, maybe? No, there's red floating.
But there's so much mana, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose it just doesn't matter.
I don't know whether there's any like 0 mana stuff for Matt. Whether there's a don't want to give Matt anything else just in case. I don't even know if they're playing like counter spells and stuff.
I don't think they're playing many.
Just as a quick check, it looks like it's just Mental Misstep. So that doesn't really count.
No, this category means colours don't even matter for George anymore. This is as close to being over as I think you can get.
Yeah,
There has to be an absurd whiff off of this Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah, we just need to find the winning card. Some lands on a balance.
Had to check there wasn't a random hull breacher, but there wasn't. Ancient Den should technically be in exile, but I'm sure it probably won't matter. Well, there's 2 tutors immediately, so I think this one's pretty over. There's a 1 ring. You can go and get a 1 ring here and just go crazy.
Defense grid.
Yeah, just a tiny bit of insulation in case in case Matt does run a
Yeah.
force or
Managed to sneak one into their deck.
yeah, have to counter that, and then if you've countered that, you can't counter anything else. This Tezzeret maybe just goes and gets the Basalt Monolith, going for the Mana Wise, which with the Gadgeteer out.
Careful,
Sure.
James. You're starting to sound like a combo player.
I'm just trying to think of all the many ways I've died to George. Oh dear. If it was me, I'd just go and get the One Ring and do One Ring. But
Yeah,
I'd much
yeah.
rather draw cards and make infinite mana. That's the difference between me and George, I think. But I don't think it matters. There's so many lines. There was I think the Snow Tutor in hand as well. Yeah,
There you go. That's it. That's
that one.
enough.
Yeah, we don't know. That's fine. I still have all these. It's fine. We can go. That was
Was that
a
turn
really
3?
good. Yeah, that was a turn 3 kill. That was pretty busted. And good proof of why Academy is still really high up there in the tier of decks. It can just do silly things. Obviously, this is probably one in which George is slightly favoured because his combo is just much more streamlined.
Yeah.
Because there's just everything is just do the combo. There's like very few other things in there. Like we saw a defense grid. I think there's an ensnaring bridge. There was a few bits and pieces, but not lots.
We were talking about George's deck being one of the few winners from the points to ban update.
Yeah.
And I understand why Soul Rings come down, and I think it's the idea being that encouraging the two color decks a little bit more, because Soul Ring you don't really want to play in like four color decks, and that seems to be where the strongest decks are at the moment. Oh my goodness! But if you're not playing any colours or practically no colours because it's just all colourless, bringing that point down is pretty big.
Yeah, I mean he gained a point off of Saga, so his points, this deck's points list didn't really actually change with that points update.
Yeah.
But I do remember from the announcements at the time, I think it was Wheeler on Letting Red One was saying that Soul Ring at 2 is one that an eye is being kept on, because it is risky. Like it is, and I'm glad
Like
for
3, right?
I'm glad for
It's
it to be
it's a
3.
right?
Sorry,
Yeah,
back to go back to 4. Sorry. It's just no one gets any cards in their hand. Just spill her entire
just
hand
dump
on
it and see if just hope that George doesn't find a wheel.
Yeah. But I just think one of the interesting things about that is, yes, it is cool to get people more reasons to not just go 4-color mid-range suit, which is just a really powerful way to play the game. It's also like, I know it's not totally different from a deck just being like Mox 1 point, but it is at least a little bit different from Mox 1 point, which has become, to me at least, just kind of boring as a point spread. One of the reasons I was actually quite happy about from my point of view, getting all those mid-range threats to 1 point is that I now had a reason in my mid-range decks to not play Mox through name or whatever. I could do Mox, but I will still want to play Minsk and Boo and Ren and 6 and whatever. I have to make that decision, and to me it's more interesting to play those cards and just be like, slam another Mox in. It just seems like it's easy for that to just be the best decision if it's available to you.
Yeah, for example, my Mardu Horde list, we've got 2 Moxen, but then we've got White Plume, Reanimate as a Saga, because I want to include those cards. Don't want to have to take those out.
Yeah, it's just fun.
A little bit more thinking to do in deck building, I suppose, and that's a good thing.
I'm very much of the opinion that like having some kind of restrictions. Obviously, the points list in general is like the only restriction we have in this format to a large extent. Like you can basically play anything as long as you're not playing like Crusade and those types of cards or Chaos Orb, is it? Like those types of cards that no one plays anywhere.
Yep.
That literally aren't legal to play anywhere. But so it does mean you can just be like, I'll do whatever I want, and there's no downside. And it does lead to a format where everyone's just been like, I'm just going to slam the best cards ever that do the thing that I want to do, and there's not as much deck diversity as you would perhaps like. Whereas this new point change, I think, has done loads for like shifting metas up and changing things. I just think they've been really good changes.
I think it's been good too. This is an interesting crop rotation. A lot of stuff's happened in this game, but the crop rotation to Wasteland, the workshop, makes a lot of sense.
Yep,
It's kind
a lot
of
of things
a
happen across one
necessary evil. Matt wants to be going to go and get the cradle, I suspect, with these creatures on board.
Yeah, potentially. Certainly, like more than like doing absolutely nothing. But he's not short of mana. And
No,
2 cards
that's true. That's true.
looks like a Stoneforge and possibly an equipment already. Maybe a Shuko or the Jite in here. Trying to remember what the equipments are in his list. Shuko and Skull Clamp. Also pre-war formal wear. So there's plenty of things to go and get with that Stoneforge, even if he has got one of them in hand. And there's still plenty of stuff to do, and just slowing George down, who looks like he's digging for lands here. So definitely is like a sensible slow my opponent down play. Like it's making it harder for him to combo because he's taken away a mana from him. But as we just said, the Academy combo is probably just better, easier at least, if not better, to kind of grind through and get. So it makes some amount of sense to slow him down as much as you can.
Yep, makes sense. It's like both of our players are land starved, but Tamiyo does get to flip now.
Yeah, that's a really cool way to flip Tamiyo off of the top. Like for basically a 0 mana, flipping of Tamiyo is just really cool. And it does mean that there's not going to be much in the way of beats here from Matt. While they're both in a bit of a rebuilding stage now, like George knows he's drawing top. That's going to help him dig a little bit. Not going to get any more clues, which is rough, but it means he's not going to die to an Elvish Reclaimer just getting big enough to be attacking for 4 with the Exalted trigger as well.
It's like the Exalted. I also just don't think Matt really wants to attack with a Reclaimer. Wants to be using.
Well, it does. It does depend. You do obviously have to sack
Tamiyo also needs to be dealt with, because Tamiyo gets that ultimate and George just wins, right?
Yeah, you would imagine so. There's so many 0 mana artifacts, or artifacts that at least net positive mana. That does seem like a pretty unwinnable situation for Matt. But Matt also wants to do some stuff, and he's definitely got options here. Right, Stoneforge is a good tutor. It tutors for 1/2 of his combo, but it also tutors for things like Skull Clamp just to get cards back in it. It tutors for pre-war formal wear that could get. I don't think there's anything particularly relevant as Graveyard at the minute, but it just could be some like safe recursion for later. So it just depends on how Matt's play that looks at Uro. Yeah, so there's Uro is potentially it's hard for Uro to come back next turn actually, because that Ignoble doesn't make it makes the green, but that Arbor Elf doesn't make any mana at the minute because that's just a meticulous archive. So like the mana situation isn't great, and it's I suppose it's whether getting him for
So
one.
we are just gonna try to.
The possible decision there was whether you have to spend a turn having Reclaimer turn this meticulous archive into a forest that also makes other colours. I don't know if
I suspect that's about to happen, right?
Yeah, quite possibly. Like Spire's Headquarters type card that just gives you more access to more things.
Just you need a forest.
Yeah, and George going off. This is like very, considering there was a lot in both of these games. There's a lot of very cheap early spells.
Yep.
Yeah, you're sacking the land. This game has gone remarkably differently from the first one, where it was just who can do busted stuff the quickest.
This has now become like, here,
yeah, like as defensive as you can possibly be.
And if another talent game? I'd probably suggest that if both players are playing a more defensive game, then Matt's probably more favoured. We talked about the fact that George is a much quicker combo list, can get there a lot easier, but Matt's the one who's got the tools to slow things down.
That is true to an extent. George does have some stuff to like react and protect, like he's running Pact of Negation, Veil of Summer is in here as a meta call. We talked about Ensnaring Bridge and just some of the more almost like prisony elements
Yeah,
of
that's true.
George's build. But
Well, we
that
saw the
Talongate's
defense
Madara,
grid earlier. That's a
yeah.
kind of protection for his combo, really. But yeah,
There's a really interesting fetch off the Reclaimer there, getting Talongate's Madara to protect the Ignoble Hierarch, which is obviously good in that you're not losing a mana source and that the Ignoble Hierarch's not going away, but you've not made a new mana source that this
Yeah.
Arbor Elf can untap again. So it is like a rough combination of stuff to do. And it looks like they're both struggling for mana, like quite a lot here. It might still be that this Reclaimer needs to go and get something that this Arbor Elf can untap to try and get a point, or maybe that's just maybe you have to have a certain element of greed at this stage. Just like I just need to, if I don't draw lands, I'm screwed no matter what my decision process is. So maybe like that's just too much of an entire turn's worth of investment. I don't know. I'm not a very good combo player. I barely the only combo deck I do is players at Art School on, and that barely qualifies.
Can you tell everybody tell that we're fumbling through these combo matchups because neither of us have a clue how to do combo.
No. You give me some nice mid-range or control, and I'm quite happy. But give me an aggro or a combo deck, and I'm like, maybe this.
Yeah, I'm definitely more aggro to mid range for this format so far, anyway.
Yeah.
And you're the higher end of mid range.
Is sacking the Talongates though, so maybe he is now going for that line. I don't actually think Matt plays any Triomes anymore. I think he might have swapped them all out for
It's the fails.
yeah, which is understandable. It's definitely really interesting. Yeah, he's getting one. Arbor Elf on tap. That makes sense.
We do now get the forest.
But it is a really interesting. Yeah, it's one of the conversations that I feel like has gone a bit by the wayside. Is that people just started slamming Surveyor lands in because of all the extra value.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as you get to 4 colors, like there is tension. Like when you're a 3-color deck, I can totally see being like, yes, I will play all 3 of these Surveyor lands, and maybe I don't need to try him at that point because your mana should be better on 3 colors. As soon as you get to 4, I remember struggling this with the deck I played for the finals, the Attracts Initiative deck, like trying to figure out because I was running a bunch of canopy lands that sacked a draw, and then what number of shock lands I wanted, what number of Surveyor lands I wanted. I did end up running some Dryames in there as well, and it varies depending on like the speed of the deck and what the deck's trying to do and what the colors are and how good your mana fixing is.
Yeah, it's really good that there's that level of decision making for those decks. I think people are quite opinionated of whether Triumph should be played or not, considering like if it's Triumph versus Surveil land, but it really is deck dependent.
It is to a large extent. Like the vast majority of my 3-color decks, I tend to play the Triome and the 3 Surveils. And when I get to 4, that's when I'm starting to make decisions that require more thinking about than nothing. I really like Triomes. I like casting spells. I like being able to do what my deck wants me to do. And drawing lands that let you cast your spells is always good.
Having said that, because my Mardu list is more aggressively slanted, I'm not that interested in a Triome.
Yep, seems totally fair.
So yeah, it's like that's what we're saying is that it really does make a difference what you're playing. We found a Haywire Might, which is again another one of these interactive spells. Speaking of, we have an upkeep Ranger Captain.
Yeah, I would.
So this is really interesting. Like Matt definitely taking the defensive line here, like casting a spell that could get anything, getting the defensive creature in one that disrupts George, and like immediately sacking the Ranger Captain. Now, obviously, we don't know. George hasn't done anything particularly special these last few turns.
It's almost
but
like
you
an
never
extra
know
turn
with
spell
Academy.
Against George. This Ranger Captain.
Sorry.
It's like an extra turn spell.
Yes, that's true. And maybe that's kind of how Matt's decided to play it. Like, I just need to try and catch up with resources and get ahead of it, rather than waiting for George to cast a wheel and crack Ranger Captain in response or something like that. Just to buy yourself that bit more time. But there's a Gifts Ungiven in hand there, which he can cast. And Gifts Ungiven with enough resources usually wins the game. It's just I think Matt's still struggling maybe a bit too much on resources.
So we've just gone for a Stoneforge first. What's with the mess of that Stoneforge?
I think that might be a Sharpie gone wrong at some point or another.
Incredible.
That's it. Or maybe I'm underselling it, and it's just quote unquote a nice altar.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Nice altar. Yeah.
Nice altar. It's
All
all
right,
every
so we've gone to get
artist
Shuko.
subjective. Yeah.
Do we have Nadu in hand? No, we've got Gifts Ungiven in hand.
We've got Gifts Ungiven, Euro, and whatever that other equipment is that I think I saw ages ago, which I think is Skull Clamp.
Okay.
There might be a fourth card. I'm not saying there's not a fourth.
Well, we might be able to find. If it is a Skull Clamp, we're probably going to see it now.
Yeah, it looks like 3 cards in hand.
I know we're keeping up. It looks like prioritization of keeping up the Reclaimer. Is that what it's called? Elvish.
Yeah, Elvish Reclaimer.
And
Right.
oh, can we see it? Was that Nadu?
There's the Shuko. Oh, that is a Nadu. I think
Thought there
you're
was
right.
a Nadu in hand.
Yeah, I think you're right.
In which case, oh, we're taking
we're not
back.
sure.
We're taking back the Shuko.
We're going to leave it the Reclaimer. You are correct.
Go to combat.
Yeah. So, oh, that's a big take back, because you suspect now it is a case of we need to go and get Guy's Cradle, and then we go and we win.
Yeah, that does look to be what Matt's lining up.
Because that is a Nadu. So we've got Nadu Shuko, so we just need the mana to be able to do it all, and then it's not a definite win, which is part of the problem with this deck.
Yes. You just have to sit there and watch them do it, because there is like a 1 in
Yeah.
quite large number, but 1 in quite a large number that they did. I think it might have been this week actually. I was playing Matt, and I think they hit lands exactly when they didn't want to, and hit creatures exactly when they didn't want to. That let me just sneak ahead of them, because it every now and then it just doesn't work, but it usually does. So this is a progressive play from George. He's got the mana. He's going to get Academy. Just has to hope that Matt doesn't have it. He knows he has the Shuko, but there's no knowledge about that Nadu. So it looks like shields are going to be pretty down from Matt's point of view, just counting up how much mana this Cradle is going to make, quite possibly. And there is always the Gifts Ungiven in there as well. I mean, you shouldn't need it at this stage, with obviously Nadu and Shuko both being in hand.
Yeah,
but having it there,
Matt's
just
got the
access to
tools
more
that
cards.
they need at
Yeah.
this point.
It's always nice to have a pointed card available to you if you need it. But this Academy, I always forget this thing comes in untapped off of this stupid life spawn. Bloody Eldrazi.
We're helping each other. Is it 2? I think it's 7. I think it was on 5. Yeah, 5 to 7. Yeah.
Okay, that was a forgotten Tamio trigger that's been allowed, considering Matt's about to win.
Yeah. No comp Ariel here. Everything's fine.
Finally. I've been trying to do it the
We can
entire
have our usual happy, friendly thing.
We both got that.
It's interesting now. Matt was looking at Wasteland. Just having a quick look.
Yeah, like a little hesitation. No.
We'll go for the win rather than stopping you winning. That seems like it.
When
But
you
the thing you have to
when
remember
you
while
have
playing
the
it-
win.
Yeah. Well, actually, you have to remember, even while playing, we say while playing against it, you have to make them play it out. But like, you don't necessarily have it. Like Matt has a lot of creatures here. In the example that I listed, I think he had 2 creatures.
Right.
Like Nadu and 1 other when he tried to go off. So like,
just targets each one twice and then
yeah, and
with
if
just
you
enough. Yeah.
just enough. Whereas targeting 5 things is a lot. You know, that's. I would be surprised if Matt whiffed it. Very surprised. Like the maths do not seem, to be against him.
We've got a response to Nadu.
So Academying. Maybe it's just try and spin top into a Pact of Negation.
That's a no by the looks of it.
So I don't think there's many other answers in George's deck.
Not the look of a pack.
Is what we're doing, right? We've spun top.
Yep.
Okay.
We spun top looking, I would imagine, for Pact of Negation. And the fact that he's not Wimble Slam draw with top suggests he hasn't found it.
I think Matt's just said exactly that.
It looks like there's no Tawara there, which with more mana might do something, but that's because Matt doesn't have an instant speed activation. He just has Sorcery Speed Shuko, whereas
Got you. Yeah.
the Nomad Encore
On
is
Vec, on Vec, Encore. Yeah.
I think they're Encore. Encore and
I think you're
Nomad's
right.
Encore. Yep. Here's the mana we needed, so we just need the ability to make some more creatures. And there's Fauna Shaman, so we can cast that. That's 2 more. And this is kind of what you're looking for here. You just want to. That Mock doesn't play, but it doesn't really matter. The ability to just make more creatures is what Matt's after here. Like you need something like Field of the Dead would be really huge here, which you could go and get with the Reclaimer. To be fair,
We've got a pre-war for Ranger Captain, have we?
Does look like that's the play. We're gonna strip.
That's enough. All right.
Yeah, we
so,
didn't get.
if anybody wanted to see why Nadu is just stupid, that was pretty stupid.
Yeah, that's the type of thing you expect from a pointed card. I remember trying to figure out my deck list for that initiative deck.
Wink,
and I was just
wink,
like,
nudge, nudge.
and I was just like, oh, this Nadu's pointed. Maybe I shouldn't play it. And then it just like soloed games just from quote unquote fair Naduing, you know, putting a skull clamp on something, letting you draw an extra card for reasons.
Yep.
However, this time I can't trick.
It is a bit crazy. I would be really surprised if that card is still 0 points in 12 months time, or even sooner than that.
Yeah.
I'm hedging my bets and saying 12 months.
Okay. I think it'll be. Well, I don't know because I just don't know what other metas look like.
Yes. Of note, you can see the alternative Nadu art, where you can't actually see it because it's covered by Matt's deck. But just under his top pile of cards is the alternative Nadu art. I think that might,
there is.
there he is. Might have been why he picked this playmat. But it also has, a cute dog on it, so we won't hold it against him. Sixers on there too. There's a lot of cool cards actually. I do actually quite like this art style. I thought it was quite a nice thing to do. It looks like a mole though, potentially. As Matt seems to be looking at a new set of cards while George is not.
Actually.
Ooh, maybe not.
Right. You're definitely going away.
Oh no, okay.
We're going down to
Oh, it's a
5.
lot of 5.
Go.
Combo decks are traditionally good. Combo decks are traditionally the things that can mull the best, though.
Yep. Well, you you can mull more aggressively, and you should mull more aggressively because you need to be able to win fast.
Yes.
Have the pieces.
So it is the challenge of both playing and playing against these. Is there is more riding on what your hand does. You could just be playing a mid-range pile against an Academy deck and be like, well, I've got a mana dork and a 3-drop and 2 lands. This is probably fine against most decks.
Yes.
Like, well, none of these stop anything. Like it's a card advantage or whatever engine that will not remotely stop artifacts comboing off. You're getting ballistic for 6 million on turn 2.
I think I've mentioned it before, but I think the mulligan decision is one of the hardest to learn when moving from limited because, like you say, in limited it's like, do I have a playable hand here? I don't need to worry about losing in the first few turns. And I don't need to be trying to win in the first few turns. I just need to have something playable.
That is it's a big swap from limited, and like this is even a bit further than, because the mulligan decisions are made easier in 60 card formats where you can have 4 copies of a card because you know what you're looking for much more cleanly.
And also there's a confidence that you're going to find one of the pieces that you need in your next few draws when you've got redundancy as well as 4 copies of each card.
Yeah, every time I see some kind of one of the few unpointed shooters, every time I see like some weird brew that someone's come up with a standard on modern or something, I'm like, oh, I wonder if I could turn that into a Canlander deck, and you just never can because they don't work without 4 copies of the card, and there only being 60 cards in the deck, and it's just like, well, there's only so many things I can do to try and mitigate that. But yeah.
Well, I've chosen Eladamri's Call and Tinker as the card arts for these because they're the tutors to go and get the pieces that these two decks need.
It is wild as well that even the tutor that goes and gets the Nadu isn't pointed. I know Eldami's Call is way less powerful than Tinker. I'm not remotely claiming that it should be pointed. It's just interesting that, I mean, if we look at Matt's deck list, how many of the points are spent on tutors, gifts ungiven, and natural order? Like that's it.
Okay.
In terms of points that are tutor wise. Whereas if we were to look at George's, I mean, I suppose it's probably still just Tinker.
It'll be Lush Portico specifically.
Yeah, it's. I mean, Saga kind of tutors as well, but like, it is. It's interesting, just like where these decks sit.
Yeah. Even the combo decks are not necessarily just playing every single tutor to get the combo.
Yeah.
For these, I guess, like non-black. I know Matt's does have black in it, but it's not a black deck.
No.
Like your traditional black combo decks that were what, like you've got your demonic tutor, vampiric tutor, all of that stuff.
Yeah. But that's kind of, it was also partially like the payoff for the fact that Matt has this secondary mid-range plan.
Yes.
Because sometimes you just want to beat. Oh dear.
Oh. Look at that. Back-to-back turns. The two cards we're talking about.
I love the fact that both of these artworks as well are like at least 20 years old.
These are old pieces of art. These ones.
Old school fantasy with like old school characters as well, right? That's Choira on the right hand side and Eladamri obviously on the left. So those are deep cuts from Magic lore as well. So
you know a lot more about lore than I do.
Well, Eladamri is obviously Eladamri.
I could have guessed that one, to be fair.
And Joyra is pretty easily identifiable by the red streaks in her hair. I did have a Joyra, the recent one from Dominaria. I did have it. Well, not Dominaria United, Dominaria. I had a commander deck with her in it for a while.
Is that is it historic one?
Yes.
Okay.
That's a huge draw though. That Beseju to get rid of Chromatic Aura, he just kind of undid the Tinker. And has something good to follow up with. So from a very dominating position, because if George is getting the Ori rather than card draw or combo stuff, he's just like, oh, something about my hand makes me think that I don't need to worry about that. I just want a mana to do stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm often more scared when George gets the Ori than gets the One Ring or Paradox Engine or whatever, you know. So
yep.
Big Beseju and a strip mine there. Not being used currently, but can pop off at Inventor's Fair. Ever thinks it's necessary, can pop off in the Academy when that shows up.
Make sure I've agreed.
I'm fairly sure it doesn't work because it's not an aura card.
This Escape to the Wilds has done work.
Let's see what we can find. Okay.
So he's got 2 turns to play these cards.
It's a fairly fair 5.
Yeah, nothing too busted there. Thankfully, from Matt's point of view, no way to get this monolith up and running earlier. So, yeah, because the Misty is the only land drop this turn. Assume this maybe 1 or 2 cards left in George's, and probably aren't solving.
And suspect that was going to be for a small number.
I mean, you can improvise quite a lot of stuff here. And yeah, that's a.
We expected that one to go.
That is a really, really nice line as well. Just cutting off the mana base, trying to make as little of that, not were. Well, so trying to make the war worse, but making that Escape to the Wilds as bad as possible.
Yeah. Wow, Renegade Rally Array.
Yeah, Matt really starting to kind of try and turn the screws on here. He's got a bit of a board, got a reasonable board presence with Grist as well, and can just start beating down.
Yeah, it looks like this is a beatdown plan here from Matt rather than a combo kill. As a plan.
Probably quite happy he milled that Wall of Omens with the Grist in that instance. So
it's not an insect. You can't be happy milling anything but an insect with Grist.
Hey, it's getting easier, right? The Spring Heartland 2 goes. There's more and more insects that keep getting played in these formats. You know, eventually someone's just going to chain off and get like 5 insects with this Grist, I'm sure.
I hope I'm there to see that, because that seems quite unlikely to me.
Fair, that's fair. One day, I believe.
All right.
Then again, would you have thought there'd be a day when you could have Iron Man fighting Cloud? So you know, who knows what's going to happen?
There still isn't going to be a day when that happens, as far as I'm concerned.
To be fair, I don't think that Iron Man's very good in our format. And I've not paid much attention. As we are recording right now, the Final Fantasy spoilers came out yesterday.
Yes.
So we've not got the first crop of them, so I'm not super aware of the depth of it there. It is a small word though. You are right. Well, smallish.
What did we go for? What's X? 1, 2,
Got one
3.
float. 3, 4, 5. It looks like a worth of 2 if he's got one floating, unless I've missed some at some point. Maybe that one isn't one floating. Oh, it's one. Yeah, it is one floating. So he's gone for the map to get the academy. Is there still no? The strip mine is gone now on that side. Use it to take out the ton. No, the ton is still there.
So do we not even? Can we not even activate the map then?
Doesn't look like it. No.
Right, that's mana burn. Make sure you take the damage, George.
I mean, George is obviously much better at playing this deck than I am. I wonder what the point is in not playing a monolith there. Just to get more mana out, and like, he must have just identified that the map is the thing that I need.
Need to find the land.
Yeah. This transmute artifact is a good one too. It looks like he's going for the map sack.
I'm continually impressed at how easily you lot identify cards in hands.
Transmute artifact has a quite niche artwork. I think you won't see that in many other places. It's going to not be transmute artifact now. He'll reveal his hand and it'll be some weird artifact thing that I've never heard of. But I think it was.
We have. I think I can hear time on the round being called. We have had some attempted hurry up going on here.
Right. Okay.
Mainly from Matt. Mainly from Matt,
yeah.
because Matt needs the turns to win.
Yeah.
So there's been a few times where Matt's gone, "Have you got anything else?" And George is like, "Yes."
Yeah, that might actually be Time Twister, not Transmute Artifact.
Wait, so you got it wrong?
It does occasionally happen that I am wrong. It's not often. Not often. But every now and then.
Oh, sorry. No. Ignore me because you can block Renegade round.
That's what I said to my wife the other day, but she corrected me. I'm always right.
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh dear. Noticeable slowdown now that time has been called. But there's a lot of damage here, right? There's 6 on the board from Matt, and this Gris can ult, which is 1, 2. It's at least 3 creatures in the bin. Doesn't.
Let's get twisty.
It was Time Twister. Yep.
Twisty. Let's draw some cards.
I'm assuming.
The only unpointed power 9. It's interesting with wheels. There's obviously they show up so much in combo decks compared to other ones, but like they're such powerful cards that just don't see much play outside of one very strict niche archetype. Like I do run Wheel of Fortune in Big Red, but that's more because I own a Wheel of Fortune and want to play it in something rather than I feel like it's a really good include. I keep having this dream of being like, oh, here's Mountain, Soul Ring, Mox, Thran Dynamo, Wheel of Fortune, go. But that never happens.
Okay. Well, you mentioned Grist. Weirdly, Time Twister's fantastic little piece of graveyard hate.
Yep.
So that's fun.
I mean, it hasn't on board. It hasn't changed the clock. There is 6 points of damage on Matt's board, and if this is turn 0, I think it is. If time was called when you mentioned it, that's 3 turns, and Matt's got 2 turns worth of damage on board. And I've got to imagine George is still trying to line up a win here. Right? He just needs 1 turn to win.
That's it. George. I mean, once George draws 7 cards with some form of board presence, there's a much greater than 0 chance of just a win.
Yep. The Academy already on board as well is obviously huge, so it just...
Can we untap it?
Yeah, that is in essence it. If there's a strip mine redraw on here, if there was a wasteland, just any of those kind of relevant bits and pieces, then that might be enough for Matt to squeeze it through. But you would feel rough if George is just left alone entirely apart from his life total and starts to untap. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There is 7 points of damage on board, actually. We'll just see what we're getting.
It's a
That's
naked
not-
pre-war formal, eh?
That's not what you want to see. That is sad. Is this just a really slow? Yeah, this is just basically a very. Yeah.
Like, well, I hope you can't win, because I can't.
Yeah, that must have been a pretty bad wheel from Matt's point of view. If that's the best play he's got with 6, 7 mana.
Eesh.
George holding up. Did at least have the servo, so while not dead on board, to the 2-turn clock was still dead on board with 3-turn clocks. But that doesn't really matter, as we've established. George, I think, just needs to have this turn go remotely well, better than Matt's did. So that's a really rough. If that's your best play off of a wheel, that's really unfortunate.
That land's not an insect.
Nope.
I need to find a deck to play Grist in now, just to play a load of insects.
Every time, that's another academy. That's very powerful. Every time I play Grist, I'm so underwhelmed that he's not as impactful for me as it is when Jethro plays him.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Jethro and Hazel are always using their creature tutors to go and get Grist. I'm
Yep.
like, all right, what's it gonna do? Oh, it takes over the game. Cool.
yes. And I feel like every time I can go and get it, it never does that.
Yeah, when I read that card, it doesn't take over the game.
Yeah. Okay, so Talisman, pretty nondescript start. Deserted Temple and Talisman just in a manner. I'd suggest George doesn't have like an auto win line here because he's thinking this, which is totally fair when you're in this, but yeah.
This is why George enjoys playing the deck as much as he does. There's every time you're presented with some cards, there's a puzzle to solve.
Yeah, this is a very decision-heavy deck, which is one of the things I like the most about Magic is trying to playing the game matter. So it does what you decide to cast, your order you turn to do things.
Yes, yeah,
it's important.
Well, to the point where if I turned up with this deck, I'd go 0-4 very easily.
Oh no, I feel like you could get a win. Oh god, there's a tinker. I feel like you could get one win.
Maybe I could sneak one.
Yeah, I feel like you could get one.
Oh, thanks. High praise indeed.
I believe in you. You just randomly draw Soul Ring Academy, like engine in your opening hand one time. I'm sure that happens all the time. That's the only explanation.
When I said high praise, I take it back now. That's not high praise. That's just you saying 1 in 4 matches you can get lucky. Maybe your opponent won't be able to play the game.
This is a really cool line though. Tinkering for another wheel. It might not always be the most immediate thing to think of when you're tinkering. You just think of it for the bust and stuff that lets you combo off.
Well,
but you've already got a lot of mana.
George didn't find a win with the puzzle that he was presented with, so it's a case of like, well, show me another puzzle.
Yeah, just really heads up play from someone who knows his deck well.
Yep.
7 cards, all right.
Also knowing full well that like we are very close to just dying when we pass the turn.
Yeah. If we untap without having done something, we are dead. Even with this retrofitted foundry to make a blocker, we are very dead. So you've got to find the line this turn.
Trinket Mage down to 2.
Trinket Mage. What are we getting now?
This will be a Soul Ring or a top.
Is it not a key?
Oh, a key. He doesn't have an artifact way to untap.
Yeah.
There's Candelabra. That makes more sense. You need the Candelabra first before you get the key. The key untaps Candelabra, but the Candelabra untaps the Academy.
Okay. Oh, of course, yeah. Weirdly, the Academy is not an artifact because it doesn't actually tap for mana.
No, in and of itself.
Up to 3. Ready? Cast Candelabra down to 2.
Down to 2. Can you use the Candelabra to untap the Temple and the Academy? Which lets you go again for 6, 11 mana. So there's still lots of mana here.
Cast this Fabricate down to 2.
Okay.
Now can we get a key? No, maybe it's more win. Depends what's in hand.
Might be
George.
Paradox Engine. If he's got more spells to cast.
Yeah,
Apologise to the young listeners
true.
for waiting for the answer, but I do have
No,
That is key.
okay, we
You're
are
right.
getting key, which suggests that the win is in hand, right?
Yep. You would have thought so. I'm trying to think of what lines are here. Usually when this is happening against me, when George is doing it, I'm just sitting on the other side of the table being like, sure, go.
Oh, right. Now you've actually got to think about it. Now you're commentating on it, you have to care.
Oh, I care, but unless I'm literally playing control, there's nothing I can do about
Right,
it.
yes, I get you.
So 3 floating mana.
Make a servo, very important.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Tap up to 8. Untap Academy.
Going to 9, down to
When I say 7. 7.
down to 8, right? Oh, whatever.
I
That's
suspect
14,
I
right.
suspect it doesn't matter. We have a cap
Oh,
size.
cap size with buyback lets him keep casting his candelabra and then tapping. Use that to get
So we do just have infinite mana.
Yep. Infinite mana and trinket mage to get top, which then draws your entire library.
Can't do anything about that. That's what you do first.
Okay, so the cap size then goes to get. Yep. All right, that's it then. We've got a solitude for.
No, I think he's just potentially revealing. Oh no, he's protecting. He has the solitude for the trinket mage, which is needed to go and get the top. But the spell bomb on George's side lets him protect it and just go again. It does stop the cap size with buyback, but I assume there's just other ways to keep doing stuff. Yeah, because when George
Matt
goes to
scooped
target,
anyway, but yeah, the win was there. That was cool. That was cool.
yeah, when George goes to target the trinket mage with buyback on cap size, you can make him use something else, which at least loses the buyback on cap size.
Well,
Yeah,
these two are very good at doing what they do. Well played, guys, and thank you to everybody for joining, and thank you, James.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Catch you next time. Bye.